Tonight, the major announcement by President Biden moving up his nationwide COVID vaccination deadline by nearly 2 weeks. The president now saying every American adult will be eligible to receive the vaccine by April 19th. It comes as California, the state hardest hit by COVID, announces a target date to fully reopen. And the news tonight on Moderna. How long does its vaccine protection last? The police instructor who trained Derek Chauvin testifying that Chauvin did not use an authorized neck restraint on George Floyd. And what happened today when Floyd's friend, who was in the car with him as police approached, faced the judge. The Navy medic killed at a military base after shooting and injuring 2 sailors at a separate location. What we're learning. New surveillance of the man who rammed his car into police at the Capitol shortly before the attack. What it shows him buying. The heartbreaking video, a migrant boy saying he was abandoned near the border. His tearful plea to a patrol agent. Our series, The American Worker, as more return to the workplace. Can your company require you to get vaccinated? The new home of the All-Star Game revealed. And the hug more than a year in the making, inspiring America.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. President Biden expressing concerns progress against COVID could be threatened by new variants has just announced he's moving up the vaccination timeline, now declaring all adults will be eligible for vaccinations as of April 19th. The president speaking to reporters late today, acknowledging that cases are rising again. His warning coming as health experts continue to debate if the country has entered a 4th wave of illness and what that looks like. In a few minutes, my exclusive conversation with the governor of New Jersey, one of the states trying to manage a troubling rise in cases. But if theirs is a cautionary tale, it is not being heeded by a growing number of states that tonight seem eager to move on. And that's where we start with Miguel Almaguer.
It was the state hit hardest by the deadly winter surge. Now California, the world's 5th largest economy, plans to fully reopen by June 15th, if all goes well.
We are seeing bright light at the end of the tunnel.
California's slow, measured approach, far different than the one unfolding in Texas. In striking defiance of CDC guidance, the Rangers hosted a sellout crowd of 38,000, making social distancing nearly impossible, and though masks were required, they were often not worn. The team holding a moment of silence for COVID victims and healthcare workers, though experts say it's events exactly like this that can jeopardize lives.
Right now, the problem is we still have a chunk of Americans who are high risk who have not gotten vaccinated.
Though Texas has seen a 19% drop in COVID cases, states in over half the country are recording a rise in infections. Minnesota's hospitalizations doubling in 5 weeks. In Michigan, the situation growing critical.
The hospital's filling up and the emergency department is filling up as well.
Hoping to quickly reach herd immunity, today the president says states should open vaccinations to all adults by April 19th, nearly 2 weeks earlier than his previous goal. Today, new research suggesting Moderna's vaccine, like Pfizer's, remains effective for at least 6 months. But even as the U.S. averages 3 million vaccinations a day with 169 million shots into arms so far, variants are fueling new worries. Still, states like New Jersey, with rising cases and hospitalizations, are already loosening more restrictions. The country eager to move forward while still facing the threat of its deadly past. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
And today I spent time in one of those states struggling with rising cases, New Jersey, with the 2nd highest rate of new infections per capita. In an NBC News exclusive, I spoke to New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy about what's happening there and why.
So we've got 17 different places in Newark right now.
I met up with New Jersey's governor as he visited a FEMA vaccination site in Newark today.
Is this number 1? Is this first?
One of the battlegrounds in the state's urgent fight to reverse an increase in COVID infections.
Yeah, we rank highly, unfortunately. Densest state in America, densest region in America, a cold weather winter state, multi-generational families.
Are you in a new wave right now?
I think we are in a plateau. We're up somewhat over the past couple of weeks, but still down meaningfully from where we were in January.
Over the last 13 days, New Jersey has a nearly 13% increase in cases. Hit hard at the start of the pandemic, New Jersey under Governor Phil Murphy already has the highest COVID death toll per capita. Over 24,000 New Jerseyans have died, another 15 just yesterday.
If this was happening at the beginning of the pandemic, you'd likely be adding restrictions, not reducing them. Is that a fair statement?
Well, certainly at the time we did a year ago, and that had a lot to do with the fact that none of us knew what hit us. I think you've got variants in our state. We're not really doing a whole lot of opening.
New Jersey recently eased capacity restrictions for indoor dining, entertainment venues, gyms, among others, but has moved more cautiously than many other states.
Are the decisions now in terms of allowing, half capacity in restaurants, for example, are those science-based or based on pressure from restaurant owners?
Now, we have nothing but sympathy for the restaurant industry as an example, which has been completely clobbered. But we're still making the decisions based on the data.
There have been some states that have largely thrown away, lifted all their restrictions and are doing better than New Jersey. Does that frustrate you?
I think it's because of less density and warmer weather, honestly. They're able to spread out more than we can, and they're able to live more of their lives outdoors than we can. It's a reason for us to remain sober and to double down on our efforts, and we'll continue to do that.
The state working to head off what models project is a worst case.
Worst case is 4,000 or 5,000 folks in the hospital. Our peak in the spring last year was just under 8,300.
New Jersey has administered more than 4.7 million vaccine doses, but has been slower than many states in expanding eligibility.
So you have, New Jersey now has dropped the eligibility to age 55 and over, so
as of yesterday,
you qualify.
I'm in.
Governor Murphy does not foresee tightened restrictions in New Jersey's future. The bottom of his tool bag should cases continue to rise, maybe a plea from the heart.
We know that you're fatigued. We know you're sick of this, but please, God, keep doing the basic stuff. Get vaccinated, get tested if you need to be.
In line with President Biden's new directive, Governor Murphy says New Jersey will open up vaccinations to all its residents over the age of 16 on April 19th. And here's where we stand tonight. More than 108 million Americans have received at least one vaccine dose. The number hospitalized remains steady at about 34,000. And make a plan so you'll be ready when it's your turn for your vaccination. Visit planyourvaccine.com for more. In just 60 seconds, a shooting at a Navy office. The suspect then shot and killed at a nearby military base. And the heartbreaking scene as a border agent comes across a migrant child abandoned. The use of force by police and how much is necessary was the key focus today at the murder trial of Derek Chauvin, the former police officer charged in the death of George Floyd. Gabe Gutierrez is in Minneapolis.
With former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin taking notes, today prosecutors drilled down on use of force policies.
When it's safe and feasible, that we shall de-escalate.
Bringing officer after officer to the stand.
You want to use the least amount of force necessary to meet your objectives.
Lieutenant Johnny Mersil oversees the department's use of force training.
Say, for example, the subject was under control and handcuffed. Would this be authorized?
I would say no.
But Chauvin's attorney, Eric Nelson, doubled down, arguing that an angry crowd of bystanders distracted him and that George Floyd died from drug use and underlying medical conditions, not the 9.5 minutes Chauvin pinned Floyd down with his knee. During cross-examination, Nelson also brought up this training picture that shows an officer restraining a suspect with his knee across his shoulders and neck.
If that person were to be handcuffed and circumstances dictated, the officer would be permitted to continue to hold his knee in that same position. Agreed?
I would say yes. However, we've cautioned officers that be mindful of the neck area and to look for the shoulder for placement.
Hanging over the case, a potential key witness. Today, Maurice Hall appeared remotely, out of the jury's view. He's the passenger in Floyd's SUV seen here in this body camera video. His lawyer says he'd invoke the Fifth Amendment to avoid questions about whether he provided Floyd drugs.
He has been provided no immunity, no protection for his testimony whatsoever.
The judge asked both sides to draft a list of limited questions for review. Also expected later this week, crucial testimony from the county medical examiner. For the Floyd family, a painstaking process.
It's like trying to squeeze water out of a rock right now. But my family, we have the faith. It's small as a mustard seed. We're going to get through this.
Gabe, I think it's fair to say some of the testimony today was more technical than some of the more emotional accounts we've seen. How was the jury reacting?
Well, Lester, according to a pool reporter inside the courtroom, one juror appeared to be sleeping at one point. Several others yawning. Lester?
All right, Gabe, thank you. Police and military investigators are searching for a motive this evening after a Navy corpsman shot and wounded 2 sailors in Frederick, Maryland, before he was shot and killed at a nearby military base. Tom Costello has late details.
It happened at 8:20 this morning.
All units, 1043. City is operating on an active shooter event.
2 Navy sailors shot at a Navy office in Frederick, Maryland, an hour outside of Washington. Police say the 38-year-old suspect, Navy hospital corpsman Fantahun Gurma Walden Senbet, quickly sped away.
We have a male subject in an Army-type suit with an AR-15.
Minutes later, breaching the gate at Fort Detrick Military Base and leading base police on a chase before they opened fire. The suspect's car riddled with bullets.
They were able to stop him in a parking lot, then brandished a weapon, and our police department was able to neutralize the subject.
Both victims were airlifted to a trauma center in Baltimore, where tonight one is in critical condition, the other just released from the hospital. While the victims and the suspect all worked at Fort Detrick, it is not clear whether they knew each other.
Every time we turn on the TV, we're seeing something like this happen, and now it's happening in our backyard, so no one wants to see this type of thing.
Tonight, federal, military, local, and state police are still searching for evidence and answers. Tom Costello, NBC News, Washington.
4 days after that deadly car attack on U.S. Capitol police officers, new video shows the suspect buying the knife he waved at police before he was shot and killed. The store owner says the knife seen in police photos matches the one the suspect purchased. And now to the migrant surge at the border and the searing new video of a young boy whose face we want you to see, telling a Border Patrol agent he was abandoned in the desert trying to cross into the U.S. without his parents. Andrea Mitchell has that story.
It's heartbreaking to watch. A young boy approaching a U.S. Border Patrol agent last Thursday in the middle of the desert, alone and sobbing. Can you help me, he says. I was coming with a group and they abandoned me and I don't know where they are. They left you alone, the agent asks. They abandoned me, he says, adding his parents were not with him and he was afraid of being kidnapped. It is just the latest shocking video of unaccompanied migrant children crossing the border. Last week, surveillance cameras capturing a smuggler tossing 3- and 5-year-old toddler girls from Ecuador over a 14-foot border fence, then running away. Incredibly, the 2 sisters were uninjured. Part of the record migrant surge after President Biden changed border policy, allowing unaccompanied children to stay in the U.S.
We are encountering so many children, about 100 a day, here in the El Paso region that are just turning themselves in.
There are currently more than 19,000 unaccompanied migrant children in U.S. custody, more than 4,000 held by the Border Patrol in severely overcrowded detention facilities like this one in Donna, Texas, where they are packed shoulder to shoulder in a pandemic. Tonight, the Border Patrol is telling Telemundo that the boy is safe at one of their facilities. The next step would be trying to reach his parents as the record-breaking number of unaccompanied children continue to cross the border. Lester.
All right, Andrea Mitchell. And then there's this. Human rights groups say the children of Myanmar are paying a terrible price at the hands of security forces in a horrifying crackdown following the military coup 2 months ago. Keir Simmons is following the situation there.
7-year-old Chim Yu Chit was shot by a soldier in her own home, Myanmar's youngest victim of a brutal military crackdown that tonight human rights groups say is sparing no one, including an alarming number of children.
Well over 40 children who have been killed.
The 7-year-old's family says she died in her father's arms.
How does a 7-year-old girl get killed by the military?
The military barged into her house. Obviously, the young girl was alarmed and ran towards her father, and one of the soldiers just shot her.
Myanmar's military holding a parade, while parents cry over caskets. An 11-year-old was buried with her toys. A 1-year-old baby wounded in the eye by a rubber bullet. The ruthlessness caught on camera when this teen on a motorbike was shot in cold blood. The death toll of pro-democracy demonstrators since a coup 2 months ago, now 550. Killed by a military armed from abroad by countries including China and Russia.
These governments have blood on their hands, and the blood on their hands is from the Myanmar children.
Many governments, including the US, have demanded Myanmar return to democracy. Tonight, the protesters are vowing to stay on the streets. Lester?
It's a lot to take. All right, Keir, thank you. After working from home, can companies require you to return to the office? We're back now with our series, The American Worker. As vaccinations rise, a growing number of employees are returning to the office. But what will your workplace look like? And can your company require you to get vaccinated? Here's Jolene Kent.
As companies plan to bring employees back to the office, the reality of returning is setting in.
It is a little nerve-wracking. If my company forces me to go back, I'm going to try to look for another job.
And the questions are piling up.
How are you going to keep us safe?
Have people been vaccinated?
Can an employer require you to come back to work if you're getting the job done just fine at home?
There's no reason that employer can't require employees to return back to work if they think that would be most effective, even for employees who have been working productively and efficiently.
While masks, social distancing, and reduced capacities will likely be required, what about vaccines? 3 have been authorized by the FDA for emergency use, and full approvals are expected. But can private companies mandate them?
The law does permit an employer to require employees receive even a vaccine that only has an EUA. Whether fully approved or not, you have to make reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities or sincerely held religious beliefs.
And when the doors do reopen, things will look very different.
We installed UVC lights, which basically, as air comes into the building, it kills all airborne pathogens and brings fresher air into the building.
At Rios, a design firm in Los Angeles, they're also installing massive fans, spacing out desks, and opening garage doors. What was your #1 priority?
Our primary priority was to really find a genuine way to do it for ourselves. Safety as a baseline. But then we started to implement bigger ideas of really understanding what to do in the office when you're coming in 2 days a week. What were we prioritizing in our work process?
One popular new strategy for employers, no more personal desks. Instead, reserve an empty desk ahead of time on an app. Your first stop at the office is actually a locker where you pick up your own keyboard and mouse. Then you head to the already sanitized desk and get to work. And these changes will last far beyond the pandemic.
It definitely was a long-term investment. I think for us, we really wanted to embrace the future of redefining what work could be.
So, Joe, do employees actually have a say in what their future offices will look and feel like?
Lester, in many cases, yes. A lot of companies, big and small, tell us they're asking their employees what they want and need in order to feel safe. So now really is the time to speak up. Take that survey, reach out to your supervisors, weigh in before the decisions are made, and it's too late to have a say. Lester?
A lot of adjustments in the future. All right, Joe, thanks. This summer's All-Star Game has a new home. The MLB announced the game will be played in Denver after moving it out of Atlanta in protest of Georgia's GOP-backed new law restricting voting rights. Many Republicans have blasted the decision. Today, President Biden told Georgia and other states looking to pass similar laws to, quote, smarten up. Up next for us, the hug they waited a year for, inspiring America. With so many separated by the pandemic for so long, we want to show you what it was like for one couple in Colorado, together again at last. Here's Kristen Dahlgren.
For the past year,
I'm here for you, honey.
This was as close as Carl Waitcheese and his wife Donna could get.
We'll try to get through this.
Donna has late-stage Alzheimer's and has been confined to a long-term care facility.
She's the love of my life, so
Carl has dutifully visited 3 times a week, working hard to bring her a smile.
There you go.
So when Colorado announced it would allow visitors,
Ready? I'm ready.
Carl was giddy, waiting to see his high school sweetheart and wife of 55 years.
I get to give you a hug.
Our Denver affiliate KUSA with cameras rolling for their first hug in a year.
She held my hand the whole time.
Donna is now nonverbal, but she hummed along as her husband sang.
You make me happy when skies are gray.
Even a pandemic, no match for true love. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News.
Please don't take my sunshine away.
As sweet a moment as they come. That's Nightly News for this Tuesday. Thank you for watching. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.